The doorman lifted his chin and pointed with his eyes toward the back of the hallway. Raoul breathed in the disinfectant that burned his throat and took 2 hesitant steps. On the door of room 207, a little acrylic sign read, Ms. Lucia, cleaning at 2 p.m. The squeak of a medication cart's wheels scraped across the waxed floor. He pressed his forehead to the glass and saw his mother lying on her side, hands intertwined as if holding an invisible thread. The TV on mute, spilled cold colors. He felt anger bite his chest, not at the mother who had chosen to be there, she hadn't, but at the absurdity of all of it. Bianca had said, "It's for her own good," and he almost believed her, until he heard the voice note that wasn't meant for him. The first time he listened, his heart skipped a beat. He opened WhatsApp on the bus at 5 in the afternoon, a slab of concrete sky above. The audio was short, muffled, his sister's dry whisper. "I'm handling it with the realtor, but she needs to sign, got it? The power of attorney is already at the notary. Bring her tomorrow before Raoul visits." No, he suspects. Mom doesn't know anything. Then a rustle of coordinates and a fine lock it in at 4:30 before the final beep. He replayed the message 3 times, fighting the urge to stand up and shout as he sat wedged between an older woman with grocery bags and a guy dozing with earbuds in. In room 207, Miss Lucia opened her eyes slowly, like someone resurfacing from a dive. The dark gray iris recognized her son. She tried to smile, but it snagged in the corner of her mouth. "Mum," he said softly, perching on the edge of the chair. "I brought cloth filter coffee, just the way you like it." 2 fingers of coffee made in a cloth strainer, tucked into a little thermos, the soft smell of freshly brewed coffee. For years, that had been their Sunday ritual. Raoul ground the beans, boiled water in the dented kettle, and poured it slow through the cloth filter his mother kept in a blue tin. Then they sat in silence and listened to AM radio, the show with the old bolero singers. All of that fit inside that little thermos now. He brought the aroma close to her face. "Ms." Lucia's voice thinned to a whisper. "The radios, they didn't turn it on today. I brought the radio with me, Mum." He set his phone on the headboard and hit play on a bolero recording. "See? The same songs." Miss Lucia closed her eyes and her fingers loosened a little, the fingers that clutched the sheet as if holding onto the edges of the world. Nurses rushed in and out. There, in the too bright heart of the corridor, everything was noise and white light. "Bianca said I'm here to rest," the mother murmured, still unsure. "But the house, the plants in the yard, who waters them?" Raoul swallowed hard. He pictured the jasmine vine, the window with the mosquito screen he'd fixed with electrical tape, the blue tin on the top shelf, the closet with rusty hinges. Above all, he pictured the front door with the lock he could open with his eyes closed, because it was the house where he learned to walk. A cart banged into the wall. An employee apologized. "I'll water them, Mom. I'll take care of it, okay? Bianca brought me kind of out of nowhere, so I was asleep." She blinked, her expression rummaging for memories like someone feeling around for a match in the dark. "They talked about a paper. I'm not good at reading." Raoul didn't want to start in on that there, but urgency was grinding time to crumbs. Bianca's voice echoed again from inside the audio. "The power of attorney, the signature, the realtor. Lock it in at 4:30. Mum," he chose his words like someone crossing a room full of glass figurines. "If anyone talks to you about a paper, any paper, wait for me to get there, okay?" Ms. Lucia bit her lip, nodded. She ran her hand through his hair, a gesture from long ago, and she smiled in a way that was almost an apology. When he stepped out, Raoul nearly ran into Bianca in the hallway. Low heels, a beige blazer, a leather bag too big for the delicacy of her shoulder bones, hair up, immaculate. The woodsy perfume bent the air. "What are you doing here without telling me?" she asked. Her tone sounded neutral, but her left eyebrow lifted 0.5 millimeter. "Visiting our mother," he answered, barely above a whisper. "I coordinated with management. There's a schedule." She checked her watch like someone auditing inventory. "You can't just pop in, it delays treatments." Raoul fought the urge to show her his phone. Audio open, proof right there. Something told him to wait. Instead, he said, "What do you mean lock it in at 4:30? Her face didn't move for a full second. The world adopted a silence that didn't belong in that corridor. Then Bianca flashed a small, shadowed smile. "You were always bad with numbers. I'm looking at options. The house is falling apart, Raoul. Mom needs care we can't afford. Selling is a dignified solution." Dignified for who? For her and for us. "You think rideshare gas pays for controlled medications? What exactly do you want to do? The question hung there, heavy as iron. Behind them, a woman in an apron pushed a cart of clean linens. Bianca tilted her head, condescending. Don't make a scene here. If anything, we'll talk to the attorney. Outside, the sky had turned dark earlier than expected. Raoul took the steps with his hands in his pockets, the audio glitching in his head like a badly edited song. He turned on the radio on his phone and on impulse opened the neighborhood group, the one for storm warnings and lost dogs. He typed, "Anyone see a for sale sign at Ms. Lucia's house?" Neighbor Naya replied almost instantly, "Call me." He did. Her voice came with the familiar static. "Kid, a realty car stopped in front yesterday afternoon. A guy took photos with his phone. I went out front and pretended to sweep the sidewalk. I asked if they needed anything. He said it was an appraisal. Then the lady, the one who comes with your sister, went in with a briefcase and stayed almost an hour. Your mum wasn't there, right?" Raoul closed his eyes. He saw a movie, a black leather briefcase, white papers with seals, the house breathing, the echo of an empty corridor. "Naya, did you hear anything?" "A bit. I was watering my peace lily and left the radio low. I heard your sister asking about the incapacitated person's signature. That word bothered me." "Incapacitated?" Lucia forgets things. She's not incapacitated. "Thank you, Nair. If a sign shows up, please let me know. And if anyone strange changes the locks." He hung up, his chest a speaker cabinet vibrating at unpleasant frequencies. He opened Bianca's audio again and now froze at a background sound he hadn't noticed before. Her WhatsApp group chime pinging, and a male voice in the distance, out of focus, saying, "Public power of attorney. No need for consent. We'll record it on Tuesday." Raoul lifted the phone to his ear without earbuds, cupping it to isolate the sound. In theory, it could be anything, but the drop in his stomach said it was exactly what it sounded like. At dawn, in the tiny room where he lived alone, he repeated his calming ritual. Grind the coffee, boil the water, pour slowly. He leaned his back to the wall, the tile cold, and turned on the old radio he'd inherited from his mother. The AM static was the same as always, as if time could be wound back on a spool. He remembered. As a kid, he'd wake to his mother stirring her coffee and saying, "Son, some things you hold gently, or they break." The house was one of those things. The next morning he decided not to go straight to the notary, but to the primary care clinic where Ms. Lucia received checkups. He needed paperwork. He spoke with the social worker, a sharp-eyed woman named Carla, who clenched her jaw when she heard power of attorney and incapacitated. "If there's any document like that, Raoul, you need a capacity assessment. It's not just bring her in and sign, unless there's a formal court-ordered guardianship with a conservator appointed. And even then, selling property requires court authorization. A lot of people cut corners during the pandemic and got burned in court later. Can you help me request my mum's records?" "I can. It'll take a few days, but I can. And you should write down dates, names, times, everything." He pulled a crumpled pocket notebook and wrote, on the previous page, a list of 3 late-night rides, someone who left glasses in the back seat, the price of gas. Now, new lines. Room 207, audio, 5:13 p.m. Voice, Bianca. Words, lock it in at 4:30. Power of attorney at notary. Clinic, Carla, social worker. At the downtown notary, the building smelled of aging paper and old wood. People spoke in respectful whispers, like in a library. Raoul explained to the clerk that he needed to know if there was a power of attorney in Ms. Lucia's name. She asked for his and his mother's IDs. He showed his ID, her social security card equivalent, a yellowed birth certificate folded in half. "There is a protocol on file," the clerk said in a perfectly administrative voice. "Public power of attorney. Grantor, Lucia de Fatima Rocha. Attorney in fact, Bianca Rocha de Araujo. Purpose, administration and sale of assets. What day? 3 days ago. It's in drafting. We're missing one witness's signature verification, but the power of attorney itself was read and signed. The word signed hit Raoul's chest like a pot lid clanging to the floor. Signed by her, here? Yes, at desk 2. With the deputy notary. Can I see the signature? Only with authorization or by request from the district attorney's office, or if the grantor requests it. But, the clerk dropped her voice a notch, ribbons of empathy surfacing. You can request a full certified copy as her son, citing suspicion of undue influence. It's a simple form, and, if you think she was coached, you can request the security footage from that day by official letter. Raoul gripped the counter to anchor himself. He signed the form. While he filled it out, he noticed a tall man in a light grey suit speaking quietly with a realtor he recognized from his mother's door, the same one Naya had described. The realtor noticed his gaze and smiled professionally. "Good afternoon. Need help with a property on the north side? Market's hot." "No thanks." Raoul pocketed the papers. On the sidewalk, sunlight slanting hard, he dialed his sister's number. She picked up on the third ring. "Hey, listen, Bianca. The power of attorney was drafted. I know, I was there. I also heard your audio. I'm taking this to the district attorney today." Silence. Then a short, humorless laugh. "You don't know what you're messing with. There's nothing illegal. Mom signed because she trusts me. And the house was Dad's. We both lived there, but I put money into it. You disappeared for a whole year during your bohemian phase. She chose the word like picking up a stone. I held everything together. Now that I found a solution, you show up with moral outrage? Moral outrage is committing Mom without telling anyone and using a power of attorney to sell the house before she understands. If everything's fine, why hide it? I called you. You didn't answer. You sent that audio by mistake, Bianca." Her breathing changed on the other end, like she lost the choreography for a moment. She recovered. "Raoul, you were always the sentimental one. I'm the rational one. That's what's saving Mom. The facility is decent. She has PT, 3 meals, meds. You want to take her out? With what money?" He thought of his bank balance, in the red, the worn tires, the app freezing. He also thought of his mom's eyes when she asked about the plants. And over everything, he thought of the bolero filling the same air that now burned. "I'll get the money. I'll work double if I have to, but I'm not going to let you sell that house in secret. Good luck, brother." The click ended the call like a small sentence. Late that afternoon, Nair delivered the second micro-revelation. She knocked on Raoul's door at the boarding house where he rented a room. She carried an old folder. "Found this in my things," she said, opening it carefully like opening the window of an old house. "When your dad got sick, he asked me to keep copies of some papers because the roof was always leaking. There's stuff about the house, the lot, and this receipt here." She pulled a paper with a marked corner. "It's for a loan he paid off alone back when he fixed the roof. His signature's notarized." Raoul ran his finger over the faded ink. In his father's living scrawl, there was a presence that hurt and comforted at once. "This shows your dad paid for things by himself after he and your mom separated, and that the house..." Nair sighed. "The house is what's left of the two of them. It's not just an asset to unload. The attorney Bianca's using, he might fight this. He might, then a judge decides. If it's a fight, let it be with the whole truth on the table." Raoul photographed each document, sealed the folder in a plastic sleeve, and wrote everything down in the notebook. Evening fell like a black cloth sewn across the neighborhood. He drove late into the night, rides coming and going like thoughts. On one run, he dropped an older man at the hospital and happened to see the doctor from the clinic where Bianca had gotten reports for their mother. He recognized the voice. Was it the "no need for consent" voice from the background of the audio? He wasn't sure. The doctor breezed by with a leather briefcase. Raoul swallowed the intuition and wrote, "Dr. Mauro, Vida Plena Clinic. Check." The next day, he went to the district attorney's office. The waiting room had plastic chairs and a sign that read, "Seniors have priority." He turned in the form, summarized the facts, and requested action. The prosecutor who met with him was a black woman with a calm voice named Ana Paula. She read everything meticulously. When she lifted her eyes, Raoul recognized a mix there, fatigue and resolve. "Mr. Raoul, what you're bringing is serious. A power of attorney to sell a senior's property, without the children's agreement, isn't illegal by itself. But if there's undue influence, if she didn't understand, if there was an admission without informed consent, it stops being just a family matter. I'll request a copy of the power of attorney, the medical reports, and the notary's footage. And I'll order a visit to the facility. Ms. Lucia will be heard. Do you have anything else besides the audio?" He breathed and told her about Nair, the receipt, the clinic. He played his sister's audio. Ana Paula listened with headphones, then looked at him without blinking. "That audio helps, but we need more. Don't share this in groups. Don't feed gossip. Treat it like evidence. You said Ms. Lucia has an old ritual. Coffee, radios, Sundays. Bring it when you speak with her. Sometimes memory returns by bridges that aren't obvious. Do you have a mother too, ma'am? Everybody has a story with a mother." She smiled, and the smile had a shadow. On the way back, it rained like the day was trying to erase itself. Raoul pulled into a gas station and waited inside while raindrops pounded the roof, blending with the radio static. In his mind, he stitched a plan: get people on his side who could say, "I saw, I was there, I signed." Weaken Bianca's pieces not with shouting, but with proof. He called the facility's front desk and formally requested a statement with admission times. He learned Ms. Lucia had been admitted at 9:12 p.m. on a Wednesday. At the notary, the power of attorney was signed at 10:35 a.m. on Thursday, one night in between. Sleeping, his mother had said. Raul requested the facility's security footage for the night of the admission. The director initially refused. He came back with a DA letter, and the refusal turned into, "We can schedule that." He returned to the notary with the same letter and met the deputy notary, a middle-aged man with pianist fingers. The man kept his composure, but a hairline crack showed in his gaze. Was the power of attorney read out loud to Ms. Lucia? Yes. Did my mother ask what it meant? She nodded. And did she sign on her own? Or did someone guide her hand? The notary breathed. You should understand that sometimes seniors' hands tremble, just as... He stopped. We have procedures. If something was off, the DA will point it out. I don't want a fight with you. I want the truth, Raul said, startled at the steady calm of his voice. If someone helped guide her hand, that should be in the record. That night, someone finally posted a photo in the neighborhood group. For sale sign removed in a hurry. The image showed the realtor Raul had seen at the notary out of uniform, pulling a sign from Ms. Lucia's gate. Minutes later, another message. Same sign reappeared at the corner, hidden behind the pole. Nair sent a voice note. I saw him hiding it, Raul. Filmed it. It's here. The video showed the realtor getting off a motorcycle, looking around, tucking the sign behind the pole. Date and time stamped in the corner. With everything on a thumb drive, Raul returned to the DA's office on the third day. Ana Paula listened, watched, read. She had the notary footage on screen. A black and white overhead shot of desk 2. Ms. Lucia, head bowed, hair in a low bun, trembling fingers. The deputy read the document. Beside her, Bianca gestured. Sign here. The pen took too long. Ms. Lucia's hand hesitated. Someone, off camera, stepped in and touched the senior's wrist, guiding the hand in a curve. The video had no audio. Suddenly, the image froze, the deputy adding a note beside the signature. The prosecutor paused there. Shaky signature. Grantor declares understanding. She read from a document that came with the footage. Not strictly illegal, but it's a loose thread. Can you request a temporary block on the sale? Raul asked quickly, as if afraid of his own courage. I can and I will, Ana Paula replied, and will hear everyone, including your sister. Bianca came dressed in professionalism. She entered a few days later with a neatly bearded attorney and a leather briefcase. She sat upright, legs crossed, barely looking at her brother. The prosecutor asked questions with pauses, like a cross-exam that respects. Miss Bianca, why was your mother admitted at night? It was the time available and she was agitated. Was there informed consent? Did Ms. Lucia sign the form? Yes. Did she read it? The doctor read it to her. Which doctor? Dr. Mauro from Vida Plena Clinic. Then why does the consent form sent to us lack the patient's signature and have only yours and the doctor's? Bianca's eyes widened for a second, barely. The lawyer cleared his throat, asked to review, said they would check. Ana Paula slid a copy of the form across the table, a blank square where it said patient or legal representative signature. Bianca's name appeared twice. I signed as responsible because Raul never answers. He's always on the road with that car. Her voice rose half a tone, as if finally breaking from control. I've always handled things. You have no idea what it's like to carry it all. The roof, the leak, the water bill. Raul breathed and didn't respond. He'd learned that in certain duels, words become the other person's fuel. The prosecutor's calm was lake-like. I understand the burden, but burden doesn't authorize turning your mother into an object. Were you aware you were executing a power of attorney to sell an essential asset? Yes, and it was for her own good. Bianca held back tears with the same force she held her bag. The house is too much for her. She trips, she falls. I can't stand seeing her like that. For her own good, the prosecutor repeated. And there was a question there, not accusation, a mirror. Ms. Bianca, there's an audio where you say, Mom doesn't know anything. Can you explain? Bianca closed her eyes for half a second. The attorney interjected, out of context. Ana Paula nodded and asked for the context. Raul, palms sweaty, unlocked his phone and played the audio. The room shrank. When the final beep cut off, a breath hung in the air. "I said it in a stressful moment," Bianca said, cracks showing in her steel chain. "I exaggerated. She knows she's in the facility, but did she know about the sale? No." The prosecutor jotted a short note and then spoke the words that opened the floodgate. "I will seek a provisional order blocking the power of attorney for sale, pending an evaluation of Ms. Lucia's capacity and will schedule a public hearing with all parties, Ms. Lucia present, to listen." Meanwhile, smaller pressures stacked up like boxes in a narrow doorway. The realtor texted Raul to work something out. The facility director made it clear that involving the DA complicates your mother's spot. The deputy notary sent a cautious letter defending the procedure. The neighborhood turned into a rumor square. A woman in the corner store commented loudly without tact, "Sons who fight over a house must be eyeing the money too." He bit back his reply, paid for the bread and left the change. On AM radio, the forecast called for rain and played an old bolero. One night, parking in front of his mother's house, he saw light inside. Not a light left on by accident, light moving. He eased the car to the curb and stepped onto the quiet street. The doorknob was cold. Voices drifted from the backyard. He crept over and saw two men with a toolkit, one using a screwdriver on the kitchen window. The other on his phone said, "Yeah, swap it today, gotta be safer for the appraiser's visit." "The house is not for sale," Raul said, startling himself first. "And you're trespassing. There's a court order blocking any sale." "Out." They eyed each other. The one on the phone tried placating gestures. "Easy, man, we're just doing a job." "A job for who?" "For the owner." "The owner is Ms. Lucia." Raul took a step. "And she didn't authorize this." "The daughter did." "The daughter doesn't call the shots right now. Out." One shrugged. The other threatened, "We'll call the cops." Raul pulled the stamped court order from his pocket. The man read it and grimaced. They left grudgingly, knocking over a flower pot. Raul picked it up and set it back on the step. The soil smelled damp and old. He went in, turned on the radio the way his mother kept it at volume 2. The sound filled the living room and, for a moment, the house breathed like someone finally dropping their shoulders. On hearing day, Ms. Lucia arrived in a transport chair, eyes curious, fingers restless, like someone searching for a lost idea in a pocket. Raul brought the cloth filter wrapped in a dish towel, the little coffee thermos, and the portable radio. They sat in a room with plastic chairs, a discreet crucifix on the wall, a state flag in the corner. The judge, hair in a tight bun and a fountain pen in hand, entered with steps that asked for quiet. "We'll hear Ms. Lucia first," the judge said, her voice firm but not harsh. Ana Paula leaned toward Raul. "The coffee." He blinked, unsure. "The ritual," she explained, gesturing. He nodded. They asked permission. The judge gave a small nod. He opened the thermos. The smell filled the room. He turned the radio on low to a bolero. Without looking, Ms. Lucia said, "Quién es el que está llorando?" as if finishing the lyric. "Miss Lucia, do you know where you are?" the judge asked. "In a place that feels like church but isn't. I smelled coffee. My son always brings it." She pointed to the filter. "Cloth is best, it holds the grounds." "Do you know who I am?" The judge smiled with her eyes. "The lady who decides things," the senior replied simply. "And do you want to stay in the facility or go back home, Ms.?" Lucia reached into the air like she was catching a string. "I like home. My house has music. There's a jasmine vine by the window, but stairs tire me. At the facility they give me food, but there's no radio there." She chuckled. "There is, but it's too loud. Feels like a party. And selling the house, what do you think?" Her fingers touched the filter gently. She looked at Bianca, chin held like a rib. Then at Raul. Her voice came as if it had traveled through decades of dust. "You don't sell a house in silence." The words hung like a sign of rain. The judge rested her pen. Ana Paula smiled discreetly. Bianca's lawyer fiddled with his tie. "Do you remember signing a paper giving your daughter power to sell your house?" the judge pressed. "I remember a paper. Long. I remember letters small as ants." Ms. Lucia squinted. "But I thought it was for him." She pointed at Raul. "To pay the bills. Not to sell my kitchen. Did anyone hold your hand when you signed?" She knit her brows. Time creaked. "They held it. Because my hand shakes." She lowered her eyes. A blush of embarrassment age does not erase. "But they didn't explain everything. They just said, 'Sign here.'" Bianca, unable to stop herself, spoke out. "Mom, I explained. You said it was for my own good," Lucia answered, without bitterness. just stating a line of life. And I've trusted you since you were little. But a house is different. The judge drew a breath. She looked at the papers, then at the people. I'm suspending the power of attorney for sale until we have an expert evaluation of capacity and will. I'm appointing temporary shared conservatorship to Raul and Bianca for management, with quarterly accounting to this court. The property is inalienable until judgment. I'm also forwarding documents for investigation of potential undue influence and irregularities in the admission without the senior's signature. The fountain pen scratched the paper like a song's final bar. Bianca kept her professional pose a few seconds more, then her hand trembled. The attorney muttered, "We'll appeal." The word hung there without much effect. Outside, Raul felt light, as if he'd dropped a backpack full of rocks. But the war was only changing theaters. Now came the bills, the daily care, the house that needed fixing, the mother who wanted radio and Jasmine. The world doesn't turn rosy when justice draws breath. It just gets a floor again. Back at the facility that same day, the manager received him with varnished coldness. They would hold the spot until he got the house organized, and the overdue balance needed attention. Raul did the math in his notebook. Rides, interest, meds. "Can I take my mother home for the afternoon?" he asked. "With a doctor's okay, yes." On Saturday, he brought her. The car climbed the street slowly, tires chewing asphalt. Nair waited at the gate, hair in a bun, and a smile like opening a closet to find a beloved dress. The house had the dust of days closed up, but smelled of jasmine. Raul opened all the windows, turned on the radio, made coffee in the cloth filter. Miss Lucia walked the room slowly, touching walls with her fingers like reading Braille. She stopped at the blue tin, lifted the filter with reverence. "This one holds the grounds, keeps the bitterness out," she said, and a lesson was tucked in there. They sat at the kitchen table. Bianca didn't come. Raul didn't push. The prosecutor had warned that hot conflict warps the pan, let it cool. Nair brought bread and butter. The bolero hit an old track. His mother tilted her face slightly toward the sound. "You know what I'd like to hear?" she asked. "Tell me, Mum. That audio? The one I sent to the neighbor?" She smiled crookedly. "I don't even know if I sent it. Sometimes I record and forget." A streak of heat and surprise ran up Raul's spine. "What audio?" I was afraid of falling asleep and waking up somewhere else. I told Nair, "If they take me at night without explaining, you call Raul. You don't sell a house in silence." I said that, didn't I? "You did," Nair answered from the doorway, her voice cracking. "I saved it. I knew one day we'd need to remember." Raul felt a private justice line up the furniture of the world. A micro-revelation from the past, before the scheme, stepped onto the stage. Nair pulled out her phone, opened the file. The date was 2 weeks before the admission. Ms. Lucia's voice, firmer then, played, "Nair, my memory is a messy drawer, but I'm leaving this on top. If the house is ever sold, it'll be with Raul sitting at this table, the radio on, and the cloth filter clean. If those aren't there, something's off." The word "off" loosened the knot in all their throats. They laughed softly, carefully, like laughing at a wake of memories. Raul kissed his mother's forehead. In the same spot, he recorded another message. "Mom, I promise that wherever you are, there'll be radio and cloth filter coffee, and no one will sign in your place." As the afternoon turned blue, Bianca arrived. She didn't knock, let herself in with the key she still had, clutching a bag of fruit like a shield. She found the three in the kitchen, the radio, the coffee smell. Her face, tightened by tense days, faltered. She set the bag on the table, plastic scraping the wood, and met her mother's eyes. "I was wrong," she said, words peeling off like pulling a stuck cloth. "I was tired. I was angry. I was scared. I thought I had to fix it any way I could. I didn't mean to hurt you, Ms." Lucia didn't make a speech. She placed her hand over Bianca's, a light touch. "You don't sell a house in silence," she repeated. Not accusing, just teaching an old thing again. And a daughter doesn't put her mother in a bed she didn't understand. Bianca cried the cry of those who hold up shelves for too long. Raul stood with his hands on the back of the chair, not sure where to put forgiveness. Because forgiving isn't sweeping it under the rug. It's taking a clean cloth, seeing the stain, and saying, "It's a stain." The prosecutor had asked that conversations like this not replace the process. They knew there would be consequences, hearings, debts, maybe even charges against the doctor and the realtor, and maybe an agreement with community service, financial restitution, a clear care plan. Bianca wouldn't get a happy ending. She'd get consequences. And even so, in that instant, there was room for something else. In the days that followed, the city returned to its cadence. The judge appointed a caregiver for 20 hours a week, paid with the rent from the garage spot at the house, a solution Naya pulled from her pocket with creativity. Raoul took more rides, but kept mornings free to take his mother to the clinic to hear the right doctor, not the convenient one. Ana Paula formalized the investigation into the power of attorney and the admission. The notary, under pressure, revised protocols for reading documents allowed to seniors. The facility retrained staff on informed consent. The realtor disappeared from the neighborhood for a while. The clinic doctor received a letter and reluctantly produced the missing forms. On a Sunday, with the window open and the vine perfuming the room, Raoul made coffee. The cloth filter, now boiled clean to lift the marks of time, dripped into the mug. The radio played a bolero that by now felt like family. Ms. Lucia, in slippers and a throw over her knees, kept time with her fingers on the arm of the chair. Bianca, on the couch, had a folder with spreadsheets. Now a budget for Mum, the court-ordered accounting. She sighed sometimes, then noted, then corrected. Her brother nagged about the pen, sputtering mid-line. "Who'd have thought we'd become partners in cloth filter coffee?" she said, half laughing, half crying. "Don't romanticize it," Raoul answered, smiling anyway. "It's work. Work with the radio on and Jasmine at the window. And with Mom sending voice notes to the neighbor if needed," Ms. Lucia added, and they all laughed. Raoul grabbed his phone and opened the recorder. "Mom, let's record a voice note, not to accuse or defend, to remember." He held the phone closer. "Ms." Lucia cleared her throat like someone about to sing. Her voice came steady. "Naya, if my mind slips again and the girl thinks what isn't good for me is for my own good, you call my son and turn on the radio. You don't sell a house in silence." He saved the recording. The ritual that had once been refuge was now record. The cloth filter, washed and boiled, didn't just hold grounds, it held a story. The radio, once mere scenery, was now a document. The blue tin, once a keepsake, was now a safe. That evening, he took his mother to the window. The neighborhood had the dignity of things that endure. On the corner pole, where the sign had once been hidden, someone had taped up a brown paper flyer. "Block party. Everyone welcome." Bianca smiled sideways. "We could host a bingo in the garage," she said. "Proceeds for the roof." "A roof we fix together," Nair added, appearing in the doorway with a pan of cornbread. "A roof that won't drip on anyone's head without warning again." Raoul sealed it, half joke, half promise. The sun lay down behind the houses, the bolero finished, the radio hissed before another tune. Raoul closed his eyes for a moment. AM static sounded like ocean waves in a city with no beach. His mother rested her head on his shoulder. Bianca, quiet, worked on the spreadsheet. The house stood. And for the first time in weeks, he felt the ground stretch as far as his feet reached, with no hole in the middle. The doorbell rang, a court officer with a brown envelope. He handed it over and asked for a signature. Raoul signed. He opened the envelope. Inside, along with case filings, was a notice. The district attorney had filed charges for false statements against the doctor and recommended a formal reprimand for the notary. The realtor would be questioned. Bianca would answer for attempted unlawful sale of an elder's property. Possible penalty, community service, fine, mandatory elder protection course. She read in silence, face pale. "I'll comply," she said before anyone asked. "No shortcuts this time." Raoul nodded. It wasn't quick forgiveness. It was building an afterward. The next week, the clinic organized a community talk about seniors' rights. Ana Paula spoke. The deputy notary showed up with his head low and acknowledged procedural failures. Bianca signed up to volunteer helping other seniors with paperwork who had no family. Raoul brought the radio, playing it low in the background like a signature. When night fell that Thursday, the house was breathing. The blue tin was back on the shelf. The filter was dripping. The jasmine was fragrant. The battle-worn radio hissed like a cloth being scrubbed on a washboard. Before bed, Ms. Lucia asked for the phone. "I'm going to send a voice note to myself," she said, laughing at her own invention. "How's that, Mom?" "So I can listen one day and remember that we remember." She pressed the button and spoke clearly. "Lucia, if your memory fails, put your face close to the smell of cloth filter coffee. That's where life comes back." The file saved under a simple name, Remember. Raoul thought maybe life was that, a collection of private proofs of who we are, to present when the world asks for documents. This time, it wouldn't be a forgotten audio that would sync them. It would be the remembered audio that would hold them up. On the radio, the announcer said there'd be a Mother's Day tribute on Sunday. Raoul smiled. He turned it off gently, like closing a window but leaving a crack for the breeze. The bolero ended on a rounded chord. He opened his notebook to the last page and wrote, "Closure. When everything lands at the right volume. Rule kept. You don't sell a house in silence. Ritual. Cloth filter coffee. Kept. Transformed." And for the first time he left the page without sums, only words. Because finally there are things a bank account doesn't deliver, but the world sometimes, after a long fight, gives back. The doorbell rang again. Naya, an idea in hand. "Let's make a tape for the block," she proposed, excited. Her little neighborhood radio show with stories, notices, writes, "The block's AM. We switch it on every day at 6 and remind the seniors to take their meds, turn off the gas, and remind everyone that a good house has people in it, not a sign on the gate." Raoul looked at his mother. She smiled with her eyes. "Go on, kid. Turn on the radio and put the coffee on."